Nightmares. We all have them, but some are so vivid, so real, that they never truly leave us. Tonight, you'll hear 4 stories from listeners who experienced nightmares that defy explanation, dreams that blurred the line between sleep and waking, between the world we know and something far darker. These are the nightmares that haunt them still. Our first story comes from Alex, who, even as an adult, can't shake the memory of a recurring nightmare that began when he was just 8 years old. He calls it the man in the hallway. I was 8 the first time I saw him. It was the summer before 3rd grade, and my parents had just moved us into a new house, a squat, brick ranch on the edge of a small town in upstate New York. The house was old, with creaking floorboards and a musty smell that never quite faded, no matter how many windows we opened. My room was at the end of a long, narrow hallway, the kind that seemed to stretch on forever at night. The first night in the new house, I woke up to the sound of footsteps. Slow, deliberate, almost dragging. I remember lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would wake my parents. The footsteps stopped outside my door. I held my breath, waiting for the handle to turn, for the door to creak open. But nothing happened. Eventually, I convinced myself it was just the house settling, or maybe my imagination running wild in the unfamiliar darkness. But then it happened again. And again. Every night for a week, I woke to those footsteps, always stopping just outside my door. I never saw anyone, never heard the door open, but I could feel someone or something standing there, just on the other side of the thin wooden door. On the 7th night, I finally worked up the courage to get out of bed. I crept across the room, careful not to make a sound, and pressed my ear to the door. Silence. I waited, barely breathing, until I heard it, a low, rasping breath, so close I could almost feel it on my skin. I jerked back, stumbling over my own feet, and fell hard onto the floor. My parents came running, but when they turned on the lights and checked the hallway, there was nothing there. They told me it was just a nightmare, that I was still adjusting to the new house. But I knew better. I could feel it, the presence in the hallway, watching, waiting. The nightmare started that night. In the dream, I would wake up in my bed, the room exactly as it was in real life. The only difference was the hallway outside my door. In the dream, the hallway was pitch black, darker than any night I'd ever seen. I would get out of bed, drawn to the door by some force I couldn't resist. I'd open the door, and the darkness would spill into the room, thick and suffocating. I couldn't see anything, but I could hear the footsteps, slow and heavy, coming closer and closer. I'd try to scream, but no sound would come out. I'd try to run, but my legs wouldn't move. The footsteps would stop right in front of me, and then I'd see him, a tall, thin man, his face hidden in shadow, his eyes glowing faintly red. He'd reach out, his hand impossibly long and thin, and touch my shoulder. The touch was ice cold, burning through my pajamas and into my skin. I'd wake up screaming, drenched in sweat, my heart racing. This went on for months. Every night, the same dream, the same man, the same cold touch. My parents took me to a doctor who said it was just stress, that I'd grow out of it. But I didn't. If anything, the dreams got worse. One night, I woke up to find the man standing at the foot of my bed. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. He just stood there, watching me, his eyes glowing brighter and brighter until the whole room was bathed in red light. Then he spoke, his voice a low, guttural whisper. "Don't leave the hallway." I woke up gasping for air, my throat raw from screaming. My parents rushed in, but I couldn't tell them what had happened. I was too scared, too confused. I started sleeping with the lights on, but it didn't help. The man still came, every night, always with the same message: don't leave the hallway. I started to dread going to sleep. I'd stay up as late as I could, reading under the covers with a flashlight until my eyes burned. But eventually, exhaustion would win, and I'd slip into the nightmare again. One night, I decided to fight back. In the dream, when I opened the door and saw the darkness, I forced myself to step into the hallway. The darkness closed around me, thick and suffocating, but I kept moving, one foot in front of the other. The footsteps started behind me, faster this time, almost running. I broke into a run, my feet pounding the floor, the man's breath hot on my neck. That I reached the end of the hallway and found a door I'd never seen before. I threw it open and stepped through, slamming it shut behind me. The footsteps stopped. I turned around, expecting to see the man, but the hallway was empty. I was alone. I woke up feeling different, lighter, somehow. The nightmare stopped after that. For years, I didn't dream about the man in the hallway. I grew up, moved out, went to college. I thought I'd left him behind. But last year, after my mother died, I had to go back to the old house to help my dad pack up her things. The first night back, I woke up to the sound of footsteps in the hallway. Slow, deliberate, almost dragging. I froze, my heart pounding, as the footsteps stopped outside my door. That I told myself it was just the house settling, just my imagination. But then I heard it, a low, rasping breath, so close I could almost feel it on my skin. That I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next day, I found my old journal, the one I kept as a kid. I flipped through the pages, reading my frantic, childish scrawl about the man in the hallway. As I read, I realized something I'd never noticed before. Every time I wrote about the dream, I drew the same symbol, a circle with a line through it, like a door with a crack of light shining through. That night, I dreamed of the hallway again. But this time, I wasn't a child. I was myself, an adult, standing at the end of the hallway, facing the door I'd found all those years ago. The man was there, his eyes glowing red, his hand outstretched. "Don't leave the hallway," he whispered. But this time, I didn't run. I stood my ground, staring into his eyes. The darkness pressed in around me, but I refused to move. The man's face twisted in anger, his eyes burning brighter. He lunged at me, his hand closing around my throat. That I woke up gasping for air, my throat sore, my heart racing. But I wasn't afraid. For the first time, I felt like I'd faced him, like I'd taken back some small piece of myself. That I haven't dreamed of the man in the hallway since. But sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet and the shadows are long, I think I hear footsteps in the hallway. Slow, deliberate, almost dragging. And I wonder if he's still out there, waiting for me to open the door. Our second story comes from Emily, who sent in a nightmare that began as a simple dream and grew into something that haunted her waking life. She calls it the mirror that wasn't mine. I've always been a light sleeper. Even as a kid, the smallest sound would wake me. A creak in the hallway, the wind rattling the window, the distant bark of a neighbor's dog. My parents used to joke that I was part cat, always alert, always listening. But I never told them about the dreams. Not until it was too late. The first time it happened, I was 12. I remember because it was the summer before middle school, and I'd just gotten my own room for the first time. My parents had finally finished the addition, and I moved into the new bedroom at the back of the house. It was bigger than my old room, with a window that looked out over the backyard and a closet with a full-length mirror on the inside of the door. That mirror became the center of my world that summer. I'd spend hours trying on outfits, practicing dance moves, making faces at myself. It was a comfort, a way to see myself as I wanted to be, confident, grown up, in control. But then the dream started. In the dream, I'd wake up in the middle of the night, the room bathed in silver moonlight. Everything would be exactly as it was in real life. The posters on the wall, the pile of clothes on the chair, the faint hum of the air conditioner. But the mirror would be different. Instead of reflecting my room, it showed a different space, a dark, empty hallway, lined with doors that stretched off into the distance. I'd get out of bed, drawn to the mirror by a force I couldn't resist. As I got closer, the hallway in the reflection would grow longer, the doors multiplying, the darkness deepening. I'd reach out to touch the glass, and my reflection would reach back, but it wasn't me. Not exactly. The girl in the mirror looked like me, but her eyes were too wide, her smile too sharp, her movements just a little too slow. She'd press her hand to the glass, and I'd feel a cold shock run through my body, like touching ice. Then she'd start to smile, wider and wider, until her mouth split open, revealing rows of sharp, jagged teeth. I tried to scream, but no sound would come out. I tried to run, but my feet wouldn't move. The girl in the mirror would lean closer, her face filling the glass, her eyes burning with a strange, hungry light. Then I'd wake up, heart pounding, drenched in sweat, the taste of fear thick in my mouth. This happened night after night, all summer long. I stopped looking in the mirror during the day, afraid I'd see her watching me from the other side. I covered the glass with a blanket, but it didn't help. In the dream, the blanket would always be gone, the mirror gleaming in the moonlight, waiting for me. I tried to tell my parents, but they just laughed it off. "It's just a dream, Em," my mom said, ruffling my hair. "Everyone has nightmares sometimes. You're just growing up, that's all." But I knew it was more than that. I could feel her, the girl in the mirror, watching me even when I was awake. Sometimes, when I caught my reflection out of the corner of my eye, I'd see her smile, just for a second, before my own face snapped back into place. The worst part was the feeling of being watched. It was like having a shadow that moved on its own, a presence that hovered just behind me, always out of sight. I started sleeping with the lights on, but it didn't help. The dreams kept coming, each one more vivid than the last. One night, I woke up to find the mirror glowing with a pale, silvery light. I got out of bed, unable to resist the pull, and walked to the closet. The girl in the mirror was waiting for me, her eyes wide and unblinking, her smile stretched impossibly wide. "Let me in," she whispered, her voice echoing in my head. "Let me in." I shook my head, backing away, but she pressed her hands to the glass, her fingers splaying out like spider legs. The glass began to ripple, like water disturbed by a stone. I felt a cold wind rush through the room, and the lights flickered, casting strange shadows on the walls. "Let me in," she said again, her voice growing louder, more insistent. "Let me in." I turned and ran, but the room seemed to stretch out before me, the door receding into the distance. I could hear her laughter, high and sharp, echoing all around me. I stumbled, fell, and when I looked up, she was standing over me, her face twisted into a mask of rage. "Let me in," she screamed, and I woke up, gasping for air, my heart racing. After that, the dreams changed. I stopped seeing the girl in the mirror, but I could feel her presence, stronger than ever. I started sleepwalking, waking up in strange places, on the floor, in the hallway, once even outside in the backyard. My parents were worried, but the doctor said it was just stress, that I'd grow out of it. But I knew the truth. She was trying to get out. As I got older, the dreams faded, but the fear never really left me. I avoided mirrors whenever I could, especially at night. I kept the closet door closed, the mirror hidden from view. But sometimes, when I was tired or stressed, I'd catch a glimpse of her out of the corner of my eye, a flash of white teeth, a glint of hungry eyes. The summer before college, I decided to face my fear. I waited until midnight, when the house was quiet and everyone else was asleep. I stood in front of the mirror, my heart pounding, and stared at my reflection. At first, everything seemed normal. Just me, standing in my pajamas, my hair a mess, my eyes tired. But as I watched, my reflection began to change. Her eyes grew wider, her smile sharper, her movements slower. She pressed her hand to the glass, and I felt the cold shock run through my body. "Let me in," she whispered, her voice echoing in my head. I shook my head, but she just smiled, wider and wider, until her mouth split open, revealing those rows of sharp, jagged teeth. I don't remember what happened next. I woke up the next morning on the floor, the closet door wide open, the mirror gleaming in the sunlight. My parents found me and took me to the hospital, but the doctors couldn't find anything wrong. They said it was just stress, that I needed to rest, but I knew the truth. She was still there, waiting for me. I went away to college, hoping that distance would break the connection. For a while, it worked. I made new friends, focused on my studies, tried to forget about the girl in the mirror. But sometimes, late at night, I'd catch a glimpse of her in a window, or a shiny surface, or even the screen of my phone. Always watching, always waiting. Last year, I went home for Thanksgiving. My parents had remodeled the house, turned my old room into a guest room. The closet was gone, the mirror replaced with a new one. I thought I was safe. But the first night back, I woke up to the sound of laughter, high and sharp, echoing through the house. I got out of bed, heart pounding, and walked to the bathroom. The mirror above the sink was fogged with steam, but as I wiped it clean, I saw her standing behind me, her eyes wide, her smile impossibly wide. "Let me in," she whispered, and I felt the cold shock run through my body. That I screamed, but no sound came out. I tried to run, but my feet wouldn't move. She reached out, her hand passing through the glass, and touched my shoulder. The touch was ice cold, burning through my skin. That I woke up in the hospital, my parents by my side. They said I'd had a panic attack, that I'd fainted in the bathroom. But I knew the truth. She was still there, waiting for me. I don't know if I'll ever be free of her. Sometimes, when I'm tired or stressed, I catch a glimpse of her out of the corner of my eye, a flash of white teeth, a glint of hungry eyes. Always watching, always waiting. I try not to look in mirrors anymore. But sometimes, late at night, I can't help myself. I stand in front of the glass, staring into my own eyes, searching for any sign of her. And sometimes, just for a second, I see her smile. Our third story comes from Marcus, who describes a nightmare that began as a simple anxiety dream and became something much more, a recurring descent into a place that seemed to exist outside the boundaries of sleep and waking. He calls it the endless staircase. I've always been a worrier. My mom used to say I was born anxious, and she wasn't wrong. Even as a kid, I'd lie awake at night, running through every possible thing that could go wrong the next day. Tests, bullies, thunderstorms, you name it. But nothing in my waking life ever compared to the fear I felt in the dream. The first time it happened, I was in high school. I'd just started my junior year, and the pressure was on. Grades, college applications, SATs, all of it. I was exhausted all the time, barely sleeping, running on caffeine and nerves. One night, after a particularly rough day, I fell asleep at my desk, head resting on a pile of textbooks. In the dream, I woke up in my own bed, but something was off. The room was too quiet, the air too still. I got up and walked to the door, expecting to see the familiar hallway outside. Instead, I found a narrow staircase, spiraling down into darkness. That I hesitated, but something compelled me to start down the stairs. The steps were steep and uneven, the walls close and damp. With each step, the air grew colder, the darkness deeper. I tried to turn back, but the staircase seemed to stretch on forever, the top receding into the distance no matter how fast I climbed. As I descended, I heard whispers, soft, urgent voices, just out of reach. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable. Warning, pleading, desperate. I tried to ignore them, focusing on the steps beneath my feet, but the whispers grew louder, more insistent. I don't know how long I walked. Time seemed to lose all meaning. My legs ached, My breath came in ragged gasps, but I couldn't stop. The staircase twisted and turned, sometimes narrowing to the point where I had to squeeze through sideways, other times opening into vast, echoing chambers filled with shadows that at some point I realized I wasn't alone. I caught glimpses of movement in the darkness, shapes flitting just out of sight, eyes glinting in the gloom. I tried to call out, but my voice was swallowed by the silence. Eventually, I reached a landing. A single door stood at the end, old and battered, its surface covered in strange symbols. I hesitated, but the whispers urged me on. I reached for the handle, and as my fingers closed around the cold metal, I woke up, heart pounding, drenched in sweat. The taste of fear sharp in my mouth. I tried to shake it off, telling myself it was just a dream, a product of stress and exhaustion. But the next night, it happened again, and again. Each time, the dream picked up where it had left off, the staircase growing longer, the darkness deeper, the whispers louder. I started to dread going to sleep. I'd stay up as late as I could, but eventually, exhaustion would win, and I'd find myself back on the staircase, descending into the unknown. One night, I decided to fight back. In the dream, I stopped on the stairs and shouted into the darkness, demanding to know who was there, what they wanted. The whispers fell silent, and for a moment, I thought I was alone. Then a voice answered, low and guttural, echoing off the stone walls. "Keep going," it said. "You have to keep going." I tried to turn back, but the stairs behind me had vanished, replaced by a sheer drop into blackness. I had no choice but to keep descending, step after step, the air growing colder, the darkness pressing in on all sides. Eventually, I reached another landing. This one was different, wider, with a high, arched ceiling and walls lined with flickering torches. At the far end stood a figure, tall and thin, draped in tattered robes. Its face was hidden in shadow, but I could feel its eyes on me, cold and unblinking. "Why are you here?" I asked, my voice trembling. The figure didn't answer. Instead, it raised a hand and pointed to a door set into the wall. The door was identical to the one I'd seen before, covered in the same strange symbols. I hesitated, but the figure's gaze was relentless, pinning me in place. I walked to the door, my heart pounding, and reached for the handle. As my fingers touched the cold metal, the whispers returned, louder than ever, filling my head with a cacophony of voices. "Don't open it," they pleaded. "Don't let it out." But I couldn't stop myself. I turned the handle and pushed the door open. On the other side was a room filled with mirrors, hundreds of them, lining the walls, the floor, the ceiling. Each mirror reflected a different version of myself, older, younger, happy, sad, angry, afraid. Some of the reflections moved on their own, independent of my actions. One by one, they turned to face me, their eyes hollow and empty. I tried to back away, but the door had vanished, replaced by another staircase, spiraling down into darkness. The reflections began to whisper, their voices merging with the ones in my head. "Keep going," they said. "You have to keep going." I ran down the stairs, desperate to escape, but the staircase never ended. The walls closed in. The air grew thick and suffocating. The whispers became screams. I felt hands reaching out from the darkness, grabbing at my clothes, my hair, my skin. I woke up screaming, tangled in my sheets, my heart racing. My parents rushed in, but I couldn't explain what had happened. I was too scared, too confused. The dreams continued for months, each one more vivid than the last. I stopped sleeping, afraid of what I'd find on the staircase. My grades slipped, my relationships suffered, but I couldn't tell anyone the truth. Who would believe me? One night, I decided to face whatever was waiting at the bottom of the stairs. In the dream, I ran down the steps, ignoring the whispers, the hands, the fear. The staircase twisted and turned, the darkness pressing in, but I kept going. Finally, I reached the bottom. A single door stood before me, larger than any I'd seen before, its surface covered in symbols that seemed to writhe and shift in the torchlight. I reached for the handle, my hand shaking, and pushed the door open. On the other side was a vast, empty chamber, its walls lost in shadow. In the center stood a figure, tall, thin, draped in tattered robes. Its face was hidden, but I could feel its eyes on me, cold and unblinking. "Why are you here?" it asked, its voice echoing in the darkness. "I don't know," I whispered. "I just want to go home." The figure stepped closer, its movements slow and deliberate. It reached out a hand, and I felt a cold shock run through my body. "You can't go home," it said. "Not yet." I woke up gasping for air, my heart pounding, the taste of fear sharp in my mouth. After that, the dreams changed. The staircase was gone, replaced by a sense of falling, endless, weightless, terrifying. I'd wake up in a cold sweat, my body aching, my mind racing. I tried everything: therapy, medication, meditation, but nothing helped. The dreams kept coming, each one more vivid than the last. Eventually, I learned to live with them. I accepted that the staircase was a part of me, a place I'd visit whether I wanted to or not. Sometimes, when I'm stressed or anxious, I find myself back on the stairs, descending into darkness, the whispers urging me on, but I'm not afraid anymore. I know that whatever waits at the bottom of the staircase is a part of me, a reflection of my fears, my doubts, my anxieties. I can't escape it, but I can face it, and maybe, one day, I'll find my way back to the top. Our final story tonight comes from Sarah, who experienced a nightmare so real, so chilling, that it left her questioning the very nature of reality. She calls it the phone call. "I've always been a night owl. Even as a kid, I'd stay up late reading under the covers, flashlight in hand, long after my parents had gone to bed. As an adult, my habits didn't change much. I'd spend hours scrolling through my phone, watching videos, messaging friends, or just letting my mind wander in the quiet darkness. I always felt safe at night, wrapped in the cocoon of my own little world. That changed last winter. It started with a phone call. Or at least I thought it did. It was a Tuesday night, just after 3 in the morning. I was lying in bed, half asleep, my phone on the nightstand. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the heater and the occasional creak of the old house settling. I was drifting off when my phone buzzed, the screen lighting up in the darkness. I squinted at the display, expecting to see a spam call or maybe a wrong number. But the screen was blank, no caller ID, no number, just the word unknown in white letters. I hesitated, then answered. "Hello." At first, there was only static, a low, crackling hiss, like an old radio tuned to a dead station. I was about to hang up when I heard it, a voice, faint and distorted, barely audible over the static. "Don't wake up." I froze, the phone pressed to my ear, my heart pounding. "Who is this?" I whispered. The static grew louder, drowning out the voice. I pulled the phone away, staring at the screen. The call had ended. I checked the call log, but there was nothing, no record of the call, no missed calls, nothing. I tried to shake it off, telling myself it was just a dream, a trick of my half-asleep mind. But I couldn't shake the feeling of unease, the sense that something was wrong. I lay awake for hours, listening to the silence, waiting for the phone to ring again. It didn't. Eventually, I drifted off, the memory of the call fading into the haze of sleep. That's when the nightmares started. In the dream, I'd wake up in my own bed, the room exactly as it was in real life. The only difference was the phone on the nightstand. It would start to ring, the screen glowing with that same word, unknown. I'd answer, and the voice would whisper, "Don't wake up. It's waiting for you." I'd try to hang up, but the phone would stick to my hand, the voice growing louder, more insistent. The room would start to change, the walls closing in, the shadows growing deeper, the air thick with the smell of something burning. I tried to scream, but no sound would come out. I'd try to move, but my body would be paralyzed, trapped in the bed as the voice whispered over and over, "Don't wake up. Don't wake up." I'd wake up gasping for air, my heart racing, the taste of fear sharp in my mouth. The phone would be silent, the room unchanged, but the feeling of dread would linger, heavy and suffocating. This happened night after night, each dream more vivid than the last. I started to dread going to sleep, afraid of what I'd find on the other side of consciousness. One night, I decided to fight back. In the dream, when the phone started to ring, I ignored it. I got out of bed, determined to break the cycle. But the room wouldn't let me leave. The door was gone, replaced by a blank wall. The windows were bricked up, the curtains fused to the glass. The phone kept ringing, louder and louder, the screen pulsing with light. I tried to smash it, but it wouldn't break. The voice grew louder, more desperate. "Don't wake up. It's waiting for you." I screamed, the sound echoing in the empty room. The walls began to close in, the ceiling lowering, the air growing thick and hot. I could feel something moving in the shadows, something watching me, waiting. I woke up in a cold sweat, my heart pounding, the phone buzzing on the nightstand. This time, there was a missed call, unknown, just like in the dream. I didn't answer. I turned off the phone, pulled the covers over my head, and tried to convince myself it was just a coincidence. But the dreams kept coming. One night, the dream changed. Instead of waking up in my own bed, I found myself in a strange, empty house. The walls were bare, the floors covered in dust. The only light came from a single, flickering bulb hanging from the ceiling. I wandered through the house, calling out for help, but no one answered. The phone was gone, replaced by a sense of overwhelming dread. I could hear footsteps behind me, slow and deliberate, echoing through the empty rooms. I tried to run, but the house seemed to stretch on forever, the rooms twisting and turning, the doors leading nowhere. The footsteps grew louder, closer, until I could feel hot breath on the back of my neck. I turned around, but there was nothing there, just shadows, shifting and writhing in the dim light. Then I heard the voice, right behind me. "Don't wake up. It's waiting for you." I woke up screaming, tangled in my sheets, the taste of fear sharp in my mouth. After that, I started seeing things, shadows moving in the corners of my vision, faces in the windows, whispers in the darkness. I stopped sleeping, afraid of what I'd find in the dream. My friends noticed the change. I was jumpy, irritable, exhausted. I tried to explain, but how do you tell someone you're being haunted by a phone call that may or may not have happened? One night, I decided to confront whatever was haunting me. I set my phone on the nightstand, turned off the lights, and waited at exactly 3:07 a.m. The phone started to ring. The screen glowed with that same word, unknown. I answered, my voice shaking. "What do you want?" The static was louder this time, almost deafening. But beneath it, I could hear the voice, clear and cold. "Don't wake up. It's waiting for you." I gripped the phone, refusing to hang up. "Who are you? What's waiting for me?" The static grew louder, the voice fading in and out. "Don't wake up. Don't wake up." I screamed into the phone, demanding answers, but the call ended, the screen going dark. That night, the dream was different. I woke up in a room I didn't recognize, bare walls, a single window, a door with no handle. The phone was gone, replaced by a sense of crushing loneliness. I wandered the room, searching for a way out. But there was nothing, no doors, no windows, no escape. The walls began to close in, the ceiling lowering, the air growing thick and hot. I could hear the voice, whispering in my ear. "Don't wake up. It's waiting for you." I woke up gasping for air, my heart pounding, the phone buzzing on the nightstand. This time, there was a voicemail that I hesitated, then pressed play. The message was just static, a low, crackling hiss. But beneath it, I could hear the voice, faint and distorted. "Don't wake up. It's waiting for you." I deleted the message, turned off the phone, and sat in the darkness, shaking. I don't know if I'll ever be free of the dream. Sometimes, when I'm tired or stressed, I hear the phone ringing in the distance.